The Rideau Institute is a public policy research and advocacy organization based in Ottawa. Our first speaker will be Professor Michael Byers, who's Canada Research Chair in Global Politics and International Law at the University of British Columbia. He's also the author of the book War Law, and his next book is called Intent for a Nation and will be released in June. Following Professor Byers will be Professor Amir Attaran, who's the Canada Research Chair in Law, Population Health, and Global Development Policy at the University of Ottawa. And it was Professor Attaran's work that launched the current investigations into Canada's policy and activities on the issue of Afghan detainees. So first I'll call upon Professor Michael Byers.
Bonjour, c'est un grand plaisir d'être ici aujourd'hui. It's a pleasure to be here today. I have written and taught extensively about the laws of war, not just at the University of British Columbia, but also at the University of Tel Aviv, at the University of Cape Town, at Duke University in North Carolina. And in 1998, I worked with the legal team that represented the human rights organizations in the Pinochet case in London. It was with great distress that I read the story in the Globe and Mail this morning. This report, these allegations of torture directed at detainees transferred from Canadian custody in Afghanistan, if well-founded, represent not just a serious moral and political problem for Canada, but they also represent very serious violations of international law. They would be violations of the 1984 Torture Convention, the United Nations Convention Against Torture, and specifically Article 3 and its prohibition on the sending of anyone to torture. They would also be violations of Common Article 3 of all four of the 1949 Geneva Conventions. And they would be violations of Article 8 and Article 25 of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. You are not just prohibited from torturing people under international law, you are prohibited from transferring to torture. You are prohibited from engaging in complicity with torture, in facilitating torture in any way. Of course, these remain allegations, but again, they are allegations of the most heinous crimes. And it's important to point out that if these allegations, these reports are well-founded, that we are not simply speaking about the criminal responsibility of individual Canadian soldiers. We are speaking also of command responsibility, of criminal responsibility that continues up the chain of command to any superior officer who knew of the risk of torture and ordered or allowed our soldiers to transfer detainees nevertheless. In these circumstances, it seems to me that there is a very real issue as to whether or not the Chief of the Defence Staff, Rick Hillier, can remain in his position. And the same, of course, would apply to the Canadian Defence Minister, Gordon O'Connor himself. These are the most serious allegations. They cast Canada's reputation into a serious shadow. They raise issues of criminal prosecutions, both in Canada and abroad. And as an expert in these matters, I can only say that I hope the Canadian people realize just how terrible a day this is. If this report is accurate, Canadians have engaged in war crimes, not only individually, but also as a matter of policy. Thank you.